Shui Land is a pioneer in the development of sustainable premium urban communities. By thoroughly researching into the city's past and present, we cast our vision into the future of the city and the needs of its population. This far-sighted approach, coupled with our unique design concepts, international outlook, development and operational expertise, we have built many iconic city centers over the past 20 years. We created the world-famous Shanghai Xintiandi and set the model for urban renewal in China. Taipingqiao in Shanghai is our first large-scale city center master plan community, integrating live, work, play, learn. Xintiandi was innovatively remodeled from Shikumen, the unique Shanghai architecture, into a city landmark. It has remained one of the most vibrant social and cultural destinations in the financial center of China. Similar to Shanghai Xintiandi, Wuhan Tiandi is another large-scale development catering to the needs of the city's long-term growth plan. Wuhan Tiandi expresses both Wuhan's traditions and the appeal of its strategic location and booming economic prospects. It is not only a landmark, but also a focal point connecting central China with the world. Lingnan Tiandi preserves Foshan's traditional Lingnan-style architecture, blending cosmopolitan attributes and state-of-the-art facilities in this city core integrated development. Foshan is an industrial heavyweight and remains a key city in the Greater Bay Area. The knowledge and innovation community in Shanghai was developed in the neighborhood of over 10 major universities. The project aims to create an environment that fosters technological innovation and entrepreneurship like in Silicon Valley, with a live, work, play, learn community inspired by the left bank of Paris.
His vision for better cities began with Xintiandi. Now, over 2 decades later, he is still ahead of his time, way ahead.
We are honored to have master planned these successful Tiandi districts for Shui Land. Mr. Lo is a trendsetter. He's passionate about introducing new ideas to address the city's challenges through development.
The pandemic has ushered in new ways of living and working. We shall keep innovating and leveraging our strengths in the creation of integrated, sustainable communities to offer the flexibility and the new live, work, play, learn experiences for tomorrow's world.
Now please welcome Vincent's friend and colleague, Ronnie Chan, Chairman of the Hang Lung Group and Asia Society, Hong Kong.
I'm Ronnie Chan. I'm Chairman Emeritus of Asia Society and Chair of its Hong Kong Center. It is my great honor to introduce this year's real estate visionary, Mr. Vincent Lo. I consider Vincent to be my big brother. It's not just because, well, he's a few years older than me, although he looks a lot younger and certainly a lot more handsome, because of many reasons. One is that in the late 1980s, it was Vincent who brought me into YPO. Many of you know that I can be considered as a second generation. My late father built a pretty successful company, Hang Lung, and I just built upon it. Vincent did not. He too came from a very distinguished family. His father built Great Eagle. But Vincent, I consider him as 1.5 generation, because he did not go into his father's business, perhaps because he has many brothers. He instead borrowed a little bit of money and built Shui into a very successful enterprise. Today, Shui is every bit as famous as Great Eagle. Vincent is also one of the earlier ones to have gotten from Hong Kong into the mainland of China, where the real estate market is humongous. He built the brand Xintiandi. I don't think anyone anywhere in the mainland of China today does not know the name Xintiandi. Starting in Shanghai, now it's in many parts of the country. The concept is interesting. It is financially successful, and the brand It's a very vibrant one. Vincent is also socially very responsible. Before Hong Kong's return to China in 1997, and during and after, Vincent was very involved. I still consider Vincent to be one of those few go-to people if you want to know what's going on in Hong Kong, which today, frankly, not too many people understand. Finally, Vincent takes care of the next generation. Stephanie, his lovely daughter, is highly successful in what she's doing in the company. And so happened, Stephanie and my son, Adriel, were classmates. So oftentimes I saw Stephanie in my home when she was just a little girl, and I assume my son Adriel used to go to Uncle Vincent's home. I'm happy that Adriel has had a few mentors, of which Vincent is one. So Vincent, if Adriel turned out bad, it's your fault. And if he turns out good, it's not my credit. But whatever it is a great honor to introduce my good friend and my big brother, Vincent Lo, to all of you.
Thank you, Ronnie, for that incredible introduction. And here to have a chat with Vincent about his journey, we have Richard Green, director of the USC Lusk Center for Real Estate.
Thank you, Kara, and it's a pleasure to be able to spend a few minutes with Mr. Vincent Lo this evening. And listening to Ronnie Chan's introduction, he sets up so many good segues for questions that I think I'm just going to riff off the various things he said in his 3 or 4 minutes. So, one of the things that we teach in universities is the difference between risk and uncertainty. Risk is something you can characterize, you can put probabilities on, whereas uncertainty is something where we can't even do that. You're going into a new world. And when you decided to go into Shanghai, you were going into a new world. So what prompted you to do that? What enabled you to see the possibilities there before many others were able to see those possibilities?
Well, Richard, actually, it wasn't really very much an investment decision because in the early 80s, during the Sino-British negotiation over the 1997 issue, I decided that I wanted to stay in Hong Kong after 1997. And at that time, China was only beginning on the journey of opening up and reforms, and there wasn't really that much news as to what was going on. So I thought, well, if I wanted to stay in Hong Kong, I better go and find out what's happening on the mainland. And so in '85, I ventured into Shanghai and formed a joint venture with the Communist Youth League there, because I was quite impressed by the young people that I met during my second visit to Shanghai. And I think that joint venture, that relationship was very important for my development on the mainland.
But you saw something there, right? You saw a possibility given the urban fabric of Shanghai that led to your very famous development, Jintia Li. So there must have been something more to it where you chose to develop. Surely was a function, at least in part, of what you saw on the ground there.
Well, Shanghai in the 1920s and 30s was one of the main cities in the world. They call Shanghai the Paris of the Orient. And I saw that, Shanghai was much more cosmopolitan than any other Chinese mainland cities. And I see the possibility of Shanghai regaining its sort of prospects and all the glamour, because if China is going to continue to grow and develop, it's going to be a huge economy, and it will need to have its own financial center as well as an international city that's the bridgeway to the rest of the world. And I see that happening now. And at that time, I was believing that, with the young people that I've met, China will have a very bright future. And that's why I continue to invest into Shanghai. And then when I was offered the opportunity to do the Xintiandi project, I did not have that concept in the beginning. And then I was asked to give advice on a very big piece of land right in the center of the city. Actually, it's 52 hectares. And I thought, my God, if Shanghai is going to become an international financial center, this particular location should build all the facilities to cater to the needs of the city in the future. And so without any prior commitment from the government, I actually engaged SOM to do that master plan for the city. I, of course, offer a lot of my own views and advice to the planners and say, this is how Shanghai will need in the future. And when I present the plans to the city leadership, they loved it. And they said, Mr. Lo, why don't you do this development for us? And I have to confess at that time, my company wasn't big enough to do a project of that size, but they were very determined to want me to do the project because they saw that I have confidence and vision into the future of the city. And so they actually, we only signed a 6-page agreement for that development.
Oh my
and up till today, thus far, we have the total cost of development has been over 11 billion US. And we've worked very well together for over 20 years.
So, looking back, so that was more than 30 years ago, correct?
No, it's just over 23 years now.
23 years ago, okay.
For this particular project, Xintiandi.
So over that period of time, the issues facing cities have changed, and the dynamics of cities have changed. So, and yet this project seems to have sustained itself quite well. But what are the things that you think have changed that would mean that going forward, you would have to do projects differently from the way you did it 20, 25 years ago?
Well, Richard, I think the pandemic has really brought a new way of live, work, play, learn for everybody. And we are now we're doing a lot of things to try to cater to that new trend, to the new way of working and living. Just take, for example, working from home. Of course, I don't believe that people can really just work from home permanently, but I do believe that we will have to offer that flexibility to our workers, that maybe a day or two during the week they can work from home or work from anywhere. And I think that will change the design of a city. And then, of course, living. Now, with the pandemic, we're much more conscious of how we can have a safer place to live in, and also play and the way we learn, right? We're doing Zoom now all the time. I think this is going to be a way of life. And so how do we cater to all that? But of course, human beings are all social animals. We still want to interact. So in our Xintiandis, we now trying to create communities whereby people would want to come and spend time with their like-minded people. And for example, we recently introduced a foodie show in Xintiandi, because over the past 20 years, we continue to upgrade our facilities to cater to the needs of the people. And so for this foodie show, we are gathering a lot of delicacies and gourmet dishes from over the world. And we also cater to the people who might want to buy some fresh food or something special that they can bring home and cook themselves. So all these are things that we're doing to upgrade ourselves and to create a place where people want to come and meet and play and enjoy.
So let me ask you a couple of big picture questions around what you just said with COVID. So you've talked about the two cities clearly that have been the most important to your life personally been Hong Kong and Shanghai. And I think anyone would say that they were two of the great cities of the world. Here in the US, we look at New York, we look at San Francisco, we like to think here in Los Angeles are great cities. And in the aftermath of COVID, there are people who are saying these great cities are going to become obsolete places, that people are going to live in less crowded, less dense places. They're going to be able to work from afar. They're not going to need these cities anymore. What is your, no, I don't personally don't subscribe to that view, but I'm curious as to yours. Do you think the Shanghais and Hong Kongs of the world will be continued to be special in the years to come?
Most definitely. I think despite the fact that people want to live in a bigger house, a quiet place, but young people, if you look at them, they all want to go and live in the big cities. And actually, I think the city planning has changed, right? In the past, we just have areas for offices or industrial, everything is segregated. But now it's actually people, young people want to live in a place where they can do everything. So that's why just now I keep on using those words, live, work, play, learn, all in one place. And the density will continue to be the attraction. But we just have to plan it in a more sensible way. I don't believe cities are going away. If anything, cities are going to be places where people want to go and live in. And if you look at the immigration on the Chinese mainland, it's the cities that are attracting all the population. When I was first investing in Shanghai, it was just 17 million people. Today it's 24. And if the government does not put a restriction on the number of people, it will continue to grow because that's where people want to live and work.
So the other big picture question revolves around retail. So an important part of what you do when you're mixed use is you have places that people can shop, that people can go to restaurants and so on. It's what brings about the livelihood of your communities. But as you know, one of the upshots of the pandemic has been online shopping, which was already accelerated quite rapidly over the course of the last 18 months. Here in the US, there's about twice as much online shopping as there was in February of 2020. So in that environment, what does retail need to do to compete and survive and continue to be an amenity in the communities that you envision?
Well, I just now kept on emphasizing the community sort of atmosphere. And also, in a place like Xintiandi, people just love to come and look at the old architecture, right? A lot of Shanghainese, a lot of people have lived in the Stone Gate housing. And because of our renovation, we have used the premises for modern day, for today. And so people still want to come and feel the old and as well as the new. And also, I think despite the fact that online shopping is so popular now, but a lot of people would prefer to go and try on a new dress or something. That wanting to touch the goods that you buy, it's still there. Of course, the run of the mill type of products you can order online without any trouble. But I think we're now creating the sort of experience and also the facilities of all the new technologies, right? Facial recognition, right? We have this installation in our facilities. People come into a shop, immediately you recognize, you know who they are, you know what they have bought the last time. So all these are facilities that would attract people to come back. And I emphasize the word community experience.
So I know a value that you talk about a lot is sustainability and making sure our cities allow our planet to survive in the years to come. So tell us a little bit about how you execute on that.
Well, we start our sustainability from the planning. We have to plan the community better, safer, healthier. And then we now starting to introduce it into our construction. And of course, the materials that we use, we actually have established some very clear guidelines for the whole company that the way we develop and plan our projects will have to be sustainable. And I think that is key to the future. And a lot of young people now are very particular on this sustainability issue. And we have to cater to that, not just for the young, even for old people, because it's moving so fast, the climate change.
So do you see, is technology going to be one of the things that helps us, and what sorts of technologies will allow us to emit fewer greenhouse gases and have fewer particulates in the air and so on going forward?
Well, Richard, for example, electric cars. And then, of course, also, I think we just need to burn less fuel and make more sustainable, solar energy. All these things are so important. And we just have to really move faster on that score, because, if I look at, for example, the temperature in our part of the world, it keeps on rising. And it's going to make life pretty miserable.
So talk a little bit about sort of how you see the next 10 to 15 years playing out for real estate. What are the major changes that you think will happen, or will there not be that many major changes? How do things look different 10 years from now than they look today?
But we just talk about sustainability, and I believe that will be introduced into a lot of new buildings, and even for existing buildings. I think we will have to upgrade our facilities to cater to that. And then, of course, I just now mentioned about the way people want to live, work, play, and learn. And so all this is going to change the sort of planning for the cities. And I believe very strongly that new cities will continue to come up that will cater to the needs of the future generations. And we're seeing that in Shanghai, for example, they're now planning 5 new cities within the whole municipalities. And so these 5 new cities will cater to different needs of the industries, and also the way people want to live. And I think that it's going to be the future trend. So, and of course, I keep on emphasizing city center is still going to be the favorites of most people.
So we have only a few seconds left. So let me finish with on how people live, because that's something people care very deeply about. Do you think the apartments that people live in will look very different, because people are going to think about, well, I have to work in this place as well as live in it? Will the configuration be very different? Or will it be more or less the same with some marginal changes in the years to come?
I think it will be different, particularly from the working from home side. Of course, I think in the US, you have the luxury of big homes, but over in Asia, the homes are typically quite small. And so we will have to design our flat in a slightly different way. And what we're also thinking of is that, in our clubhouse, we will likely probably carve out a corner to introduce a WeWork sort of concept, so that people can walk to the clubhouse, work from there, have a coffee if they like or whatever, and then do work in a more quiet and sort of more serious sort of environment. Because in the house, because if it's a small house, your kids, your dogs, everything can be screaming at you.
So Vincent Lo, thank you so much for being with us tonight, and congratulations on receiving the well-deserved recognition from the Asia Society of Southern California.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you for that fireside chat from Richard, and congratulations again to Vincent. Next, we have a final special video to honor Vincent Lo.
Hello, I'm Stephanie, Vincent's daughter. I would like to thank Asia Society for honoring my father tonight. Many know my father for developing Xintiandi, a historic cultural district in Shanghai. I still have very vivid memories of visiting Shanghai during high school with some friends, and it was my first time seeing Xintiandi back then. It was still under construction and not yet open. I thought it was a nice neighborhood, but I didn't fully grasp the significance or personal conviction that it took for my father to develop this project or invest into China at a time when many were leaving Hong Kong due to the upcoming handover to the mainland. It was not really until I joined the business about 9 years ago that I came to appreciate the courage, conviction, and perseverance that it took for him to see this vision through. A vision that was built not just on commercial gain, but one that considers the long-term social impact to the communities and cities in which we invest and build. My father has a very strong work ethic. We grew up hearing stories of how he never took a single day off in 7 years when he first started the company, how he started off in construction and had to step on multiple nails on the construction site initially when he was still finding his way. This vision, perseverance, and strive for excellence has culminated in the company today. Well done, Dad. We're so proud of you, and the award is well deserved.